Joining me on the line is Karen Stewart, the founder and CEO of Fairway Divorce Solutions in Calgary. Karen, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's start out right out of the gate here. I mean, how often does infidelity and adultery play into divorce based on your experience?
I would say quite often. In some instances, there's just sort of that growing apart, and then the other sector, the other 50%, would have that, so I would call it an event, and often that event is an affair or something similar to that.
So this really isn't something that is, existing in a really, really tiny minority of cases here. This is something that is common.
Oh, I think infidelity is extremely common, and I think the fact that 37 million people have joined that site kind of tells you that it's more common than we may even know.
Yeah, that's the worst part. I mean, I know the website has advertised and said, thousands of people join a day, but I always sort of thought that was just marketing. And then when this first major hacking of this particular site does rear its head and we find out there are 37 million accounts, I'm just imagining, more than the population of Canada is looking for someone with whom to have an affair online.
Well, and I think that poses a whole bunch of questions with regards to where sort of society is right now. But still, there's probably an element of affairs that are actually, it's the actual cheating and the lying and the sneaking that is part of the adrenaline rush. We have, over the years, lots of people who meet somebody and decide to exit a relationship, a marriage, in order to pursue another one, which is really the authentic, the way of integrity to move from one relationship to another. Going behind somebody's back, though, and cheating, it's not just the act of the affair. I think it's the high and the adrenaline rush associated with the sneaking, and I really think that that's what's a very big motivator behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know when there have been very high-profile cases of, celebrities that have been unfaithful and whatnot, a lot of people will, and perhaps this speaks to, the judgmental nature of, consumers of entertainment news, but people will look at, the person with whom the affair happened and go, that person, really? Like, there's often the surprise of, like, people expect it to be, okay, well, if you're going to do it with someone who's gorgeous and this and that, and sometimes people look and go, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is an example, where people were talking about, the maid and saying, how do you, betray Maria Shriver for that? And you're right, there's a lot more to it than simply sort of that surface association people make.
Well, I think the other thing is somebody who I always say, and this may not hit a chord with a lot of people, but I really believe once a cheater, always a cheater. And I don't mean that you can't have an affair and then not have another one, but I think there's something integral to a type of personality who is more susceptible or more likely to cheat. And the cheater, it's nothing to do with the person they're cheating on. I have lots of clients that come in here that, the wife and or the husbands are drop dead gorgeous, and you can't imagine why they would cheat. Well, it has nothing to do, in the large majority of cases, with the person they're cheating on. It is a personality, it's a part of a personality profile of that person. And that's really where the focus needs to be, because it's really not on the person they cheated on.
Is that cited often as excuses? Oh, well, I wouldn't have cheated if you hadn't done this, or I wouldn't have cheated if you had done this.
Well, I think there's two types of people, right? There's very authentic, accountable people who will label it as it is, which is, I had an affair, it wasn't the best choice, I did it because I perceived the world as this. I didn't feel validated, I didn't feel loved, I felt alone. That's one type of personality profile, and that's actually pretty authentic, even though they've perhaps made I won't call it a bad decision, or a decision they might regret. That's still an authentic personality. The other personality is someone who says, well, I wouldn't have cheated if you were nicer to me, if you gave me more foot massages, or you made me better dinner, and that's a totally non-accountable, non-authentic personality. Both cheated, but the way that one person goes about dealing with the action versus the other person is really what sets the stage for their futures. And that also sets the stage for how they can move through a divorce or perhaps even a getting back together.
Yeah, is there much in the way of redemption for couples where infidelity has factored in? Because I would just assume, and I know this is getting away from the Ashley Madison discussion here, but I mean, but actually maybe not though, because if I were in a marriage and I knew that the partner had been unfaithful, and even if they had come to me and said, you know, I've got to tell you this, and we worked through it, there's always going to be a part of me that's wondering, like, are they looking? Have they done it again? Have they? And to be honest, I mean, I'm a generally trusting person, but I'd be like, I wonder if they have an account on Ashley Madison. Like, I'd be looking just because it would be so hard for me, just knowing me, to get over that.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people, first of all, it is possible to repair a marriage or a relationship after infidelity. That being said, it is very difficult because you may forgive and move on and learn, but you're not going to forget. And it's in some ways really has a negative effect on the person who is cheated on. Oftentimes their self-esteem will be significantly affected because they keep questioning themselves. Oh my gosh, they weren't home on time. Oh my gosh, maybe I should go check their emails. And that process of thinking is destructive to their self-esteem. So yes, you can repair after infidelity, but it requires 24/7 openness. You have to be able to say, yeah, if you want to look at my emails, go look at my emails. If you want to look at my phone, go look at my phone. It has to be 100% open and available to answer any questions because it takes a long time to reestablish trust. It doesn't take a week. It doesn't take two. It's not like, get over it. Come on, that was a year ago. Well, quite frankly, it could take 5, 10 years. It could take a lifetime.
The catalyst for this is the 37 million accounts on adultery dating site ashleymadison.com that hackers claim to be holding on to and prepared to release unless the parent company of ashleymadison.com decides to close its doors. Now, to be clear, I've interviewed Noel Biederman, the site's founder, and he's basically said, look, I mean, it's not illegal, and he rationalizes it by saying, look, people are going to cheat anyway. I'm merely giving them a vehicle for them to do it. You know what? If it weren't for Ashley Madison, people would be using dating sites like Lavalife and whatever and lying about the fact that they're married this way. It's above board. That's basically his way of looking at it. And to be honest, in the good old days, you had to deal with the shame and sneaking around and go to a hotel bar and hide the wedding ring. See, now it's easy. Now you just log online and that's it. Karen, should people who are on this site be taking advantage of what may be a very small window and owning up to these things themselves?
Yeah, that's such a tough one. I can't imagine being one of those people right now and trying to make that decision. I personally believe that authenticity and honesty is always prudent, is always the right thing to do, even if you're delivering a message that the other person doesn't want to hear. I think that our culture has bred us to sort of candy coat things rather than just being authentic and upfront. And so I think that's one problem. I personally believe that affairs is a form of abuse because of the destruction it does to the other person. But it's a tough one because if they come out and say to their spouse, yeah, I've been on this site, they're going to cause huge damage. And it may, who knows, right? Without judgment, maybe it was somewhat innocent, although I can't imagine that being the case. But if they admit it, then their relationship's going to fall apart. It's a real tough quandary. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of glad this has happened because I think it forces people to think about their actions and to ask themselves the question about why did I do this? Why couldn't I just, if I'm not happy in my marriage, why didn't I just step out? And I think the problem is that the concept of affairs in themselves have a sexy appeal.
Yeah, they've almost been glamorized and romanticized. I mean, even in the Ashley Madison commercials, it's not two people in a one-bedroom apartment, then crying themselves to sleep afterwards. It's good-looking people in a nice condo with this beautiful view, and it's very much presented in the same way that like 50 Shades of Grey has presented something else that's not as glamorous as it looks.
I'm guessing it's not overly glamorous at all, and I think the other 37 partners to those 37 million people are going to have a whole other take on it. And It'll be really interesting to see how this unfolds. I mean, the fact of the matter in Canada, there's really no fault divorce. So they're not going to get any more money or get any, necessarily get any higher percentage of any kind of reward because of the other person's bad behavior. But I really think it does, I would love to see people just stand up and have the conversation and be truthful, but the consequences of that could be really, really high if, in fact, this doesn't come out.
Yeah, and my big concern, as far as some people go, and I shouldn't say big concern, but I'll say moderate issue here would be the person who logs onto the site, they look around, and then you know what, they get that stroke of reality and say, I'm not going to do this, I'm not this person. They leave, and their account's still on that site. They're in this same release as far as I understand.
Well, and I guess, again, that goes back to you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. And,
yeah, exactly.
This is going to be a very, very interesting time. And let's say there's 37 million people. I'm going to assume that, in the province of Alberta, there's going to be quite a few people today who are kind of freaking out, and they're at work and they're freaking out and they're trying to, do I say something? Do I don't say anything? My guess is probably this isn't going to come to fruition and that they'll have a way to sort of cap it. But
yeah, I'm assuming the IT department's working overtime.
But that being said, this really does bear the question to the fact that there are 37 people who see the value in this service. And what does that say about society and marriage? And I think it's time for some deep, open, honest conversations. We have not been trained in this country, in this North America, to actually have authentic, powerful conversations from a place of empowerment versus aggressive. We either are aggressive or passive. We haven't learned how to be assertive. And these are assertive conversations that need to happen in the next 24 hours with a lot of people.
Yeah, because ultimately when it comes down to it, self-preservation seems to play in larger than those things that you've just mentioned.
Well, again, self-preservation may be the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish. Self-preservation, which is basically saying nothing, perhaps just hiding it, could actually be the worst decision at this point in time. So they can't be aggressive because then they're going to alienate. They can't be passive because then they could all blow up. So this is the time for them to embrace some very clear, assertive conversations and some knowledge about how to have these conversations with the people that they're married to. Or turn a blind eye and hope like heck it doesn't blow up.
So you're saying honesty is the best policy still?
I believe honesty is always the best policy. I believe that the reason we're not often honest in relationships is because we haven't been skilled with the language to be honest. And we just have not, our schools don't train it, our business, nothing trains us how to have these kind of conversations. And if people were more skillful in their conversations, then I believe that they would have them with more confidence. So there's an opportunity in this, and I really believe it's about learning and opportunity. So I think if I was in this situation, I would be having the authentic, assertive conversation with my spouse.
And maybe keeping your number on speed dial would be a good advice for some people, too.
Exactly.
All right. Karen Stewart, founder and CEO of Fairway Divorce Solutions in Calgary, joining me on the line. Karen, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.